It was time to leave the Guzzis mouldering in the garage and take my 1986 Suzuki Cavalcade for a spin. 42 years ago I'd been doing some work near Missinaibi River Provincial Park and hadn't been there since. I remember the 75-kilometre road in from Chapleau had been a bit rough. I wondered if it had changed. Like an idiot, I hadn't paid much attention to the weather reports.
Well, I think it's raining quite a bit. I'm just going to take it easy standing here to get less wet, and I'm not moving.
The route up through Quebec's La Vérendrye Park is one I've ridden many times before, and since the weather continued to be miserable, I plugged on to New Liskeard, abandoning any thoughts of camping for a room at the Super 8. The next day wasn't much better, and by the time I got to Timmins I was beginning to wonder whether I'd made a mistake. These northern industrial towns can seem a bit grim, but it's amazing how little it takes to lighten one's mood. This lovely male black bear was browsing right at the edge of town, and this extravagant corvid turned an uninspired building into a real treasure. So by the time I was heading to Chapleau, while it was still damp and cool, my mood was lifting. I turned on the cruise control and settled back to enjoy the ride. The little community of Folliette is the only settlement between Timmins and Chapleau. Other than the general store and gas bar, there isn't much there.
We'll just drive up and down the main street just to have a look at the world. This looks like the railway yard. Yeah, there's the railway. So I'm going to have to turn around. Not a lot to these little towns.
With another 96 kilometres until the next community of Chapleau, it was just a case of sitting back, relaxing and enjoying the ride. It might be tempting to speed on these roads, but there can be consequences.
Yep, not a lot of traffic on a Tuesday morning.
But with so little traffic and cruise control, even the safest and most sensible riders can be lulled into playing silly buggers. The edges of these small northern work towns are usually the same. Rough buildings, old trucks, lots of work machinery and gravel everywhere. So far the Cavalcade wasn't being too much of a handful, but with 75 kilometres to go, that could change in a hurry. In Chapleau, I'd been told that the road was an active haul road and to expect logging trucks. The trucks beat up the roads, so the graders are always at work repairing the roadbed with fresh gravel. This soft, loose gravel is hell on a bike. I soon caught up with the grader, and once again was rolling along on the normal mix of ball bearings on top of hardpack. Whenever I saw trucks, I'd pull over to the side. This one wasn't carrying logs though, it was spreading more gravel. I was going to have to ride through that on my way back. The thing about logging trucks is that A, they feel it's their road, and in fact most of the roads are built and maintained by the logging companies. B, they take up the whole road and swing wide around corners. And C, they don't expect to encounter idiots like me on unsuitable bikes. These active logging areas are a bit of an aesthetic and environmental nightmare. But before I start getting too sanctimonious, we expect our handyman stores to have lumber. It's got to come from somewhere. I don't want to give the impression that I was dicing with traffic the whole time. I saw perhaps 3 or 4 trucks in the first 30 kilometers. After that, nothing.
Well, here we are on our way into Missinaibi Park. It's kind of quiet, but just the kind of environment I like. And astonishingly, the old Cavalcade's doing okay on these roads. Can't complain.
After a very brief view of a young bear, I got to the park and got set up.
Well, I guess the word isn't out yet that the parks are open. I'm not complaining, I got the place to myself. I'm just going to go for a little walk down to the beach. I remember Missinaibi Park being pretty nice, but I haven't been here for, how many years is it now? Since '79, I think Chris and I were doing the work in Little Missinaibi Lake and Trump Lake and some of the back country up that way. So it's nice to get up here again. I imagine at the height of summer there would be a few people here, but right now it's just me. And the mosquitoes. I was hoping the mosquitoes would give me a little break, but they're not. They insist on giving me trouble. Of course, I haven't got any bug dope. I just put on some sunscreen to see if that made any difference. But the short answer is not a whole lot. But, you know, you come out in the bush, you got to expect what's here. You got to take what you get.
The following morning I was up, packed, and on the road shortly after 6 a.m. If ever there's a time to see wildlife on the road, this is it, and I wasn't disappointed. It's a shame that the GoPros don't have a telescopic lens, because the best you get to see is a black shape in the distance. But at least I had 2 cameras running. What is hard to show with the camera is just how tricky the road surface can be. Riding is fine when the ground is hard packed, but wherever there's loose gravel or fresh, loose, sandy gravel, it fights with the front wheel for control of the bike. The only thing you can do is stay loose and use the bike's torque to push you through. The bike and the camping gear, the rolling weight was well above 1,000 pounds, running on ordinary cruiser tyres. We managed surprisingly well, although, as you can see, I kept my speed well down, and there were a couple of times when I came very close to losing it, when the front wheel slewed in the rough. I'm not going to suggest an 870-pound road couch is the ideal bike for these roads. It isn't. I was lucky. After making it back to Chapleau and filling up with gas, I headed south down the Chapleau Highway, Highway 129. At first I wasn't really sure of my plans, but somewhere along the line, once I was in the groove, I said to myself, "Okay, let's head for home. Heck, it's only another 500 or 600 miles." So I did. Highway 129 is a long, empty road. The central portion follows the twists and turns of the Missinaibi River, and on the right bike and in the right frame of mind is an absolute delight. The cavalcade was humming beautifully. The miles were just flying by. As the evening wore on, it started to get a little cooler, so I stopped in Denby to put on some more clothes. Well, I'm almost 14 hours into my ride. Got about another 2 hours to go. I'm a little tired, but not too bad. After the hyper-concentration necessary on the gravel back to Chapleau, it was, in truth, a bit of a marathon. But as I rounded a corner near Cloyne, ahead of me I could see the full moon hanging in the sky. Suddenly all my rash and erratic decisions made perfect sense. Thanks for watching. Please jump over to my website at nickadamswriting.com, where you can find links for all my motorcycle, travel and fiction books in paperback, digital and audiobook formats. Thanks.